to the Sip Rev Podcast, the show where we talk like robots and show no emotion. Because Big Brother David does not respond to emotion. He simply does not understand it.
What in the world?
Welcome to episode 9 of the Sib Rev Podcast. I'm your host, Dana, and I'm joined by my brother and sister, David and Michelle.
Hey.
Hello.
How was your week?
It was good. It's very hot this weekend, though. We've been running around doing, chores and yard work, and it's just hot. Already,
Yeah,
it's
been
hot.
Yeah. The air conditioner in my car is broken. I'm going to have to repair that.
Ugh.
How about you, Dave? How's it out in Oregon?
Yesterday was rainy and about 50. Today it's going to warm up and get hotter, like 70s, 80s, I think, this week. So, yeah, I am looking forward to 2 weeks from today getting on that plane to Vegas.
I know, I can't wait. Super stoked.
Yeah, me too. Just kidding.
If only we had that one. If only we had that little sister with us for a full-blown Sib Rev
Yeah.
party
Next-
weekend.
Maybe next time. Can I ask why you are wearing sunglasses?
I
Inside.
don't know. It was bright in here because of the sun, and of course the clouds just came in. And yeah, I don't know. I'm super tired, so I got like bags under my eyes.
I thought it was because what is it? The sun never sets on a badass. Something isn't that
It's because my future's so bright. I gotta wear shades.
Oh, got it.
So David, why don't you introduce this week's topic to us?
Yeah, sure. I thought we would talk today a little bit about lessons learned, what great truths we hold dear and where they come from. I also actually had a little bonus question for the two of you, and I think maybe I'll kick off with that. Do you have any unwritten rules that you personally live by that you did not learn from other people that you just kind of picked up on your own?
That's an interesting question because like one of my lessons learned was gonna be kind of to that effect. So I don't know if I should save it. Because it was kind of just something that over time I've adapted. I mean, I guess I started applying it when I was in high school, and I've kind of like adapted into basically like every job, every hobby, everything I've ever done. And that's always to like, no one ever told me to be the best at anything. People always said like, oh, try your best. They encouraged, all of us had things where like family, friends encouraged us to be the best, but no one ever told me like to be the best at anything. So I kind of ingrained it in myself to always, whatever I'm doing, doesn't matter whether it was like running in cross country or track or taking tests in school or producing radio shows in college or stocking shelves at Lowe's or cutting pipe at Lowe's or teaching kids driver's ed or working on motorcycles or cars at Toyota or Honda or delivering DoorDash and shipped orders. I've always strived to be the very best person to do that particular job. I've kind of carried over, taught myself it in high school. I guess was kind of learned out of like always try your best, but to me it was like I always wanted to be the best possible person at that particular thing. And the way I've always kind of preached it to the kids as well is like it doesn't matter if you get to that point where you're the best. The point is that you're trying to be the best, because if you're trying to be the best, then you're already going to like probably over exceed what you normally would do if you weren't putting in that effort. So it's by trying to be the best at whatever you're trying to do or learn or whatever, you're going to put in that extra effort because you want to be the best at that particular thing so bad. I guess I can give examples later, but no one ever told me, oh, you should always shoot to be the best possible thing. I just taught myself that over time.
I would say I have something similar to that. but it's more career driven. I don't know where it came from, but I'm similar in that I like need to be perfect and like I can't make mistakes, and when I do make a mistake, I am like my own worst critic. Um and I'm like trying to let that go a little bit, but I'm the same way. I need to be the best at again, it's more career driven than anything, but I feel like I need to be the top of whatever I'm doing in that particular career.
You guys are not going to believe me when I say this, but I actually don't feel the same. I don't feel a need to be the best at anything. And part of that, I think, is because I truly have come to accept no matter how good we are at something, or, whether it's how good we think we are, how good we actually are, there is always going to be somebody better.
And that's all right. Understanding that's okay. But like I said, if you put in the effort to do that, for Shell, it's like perfection. But for me, it's just, I want to be the best at that thing. I might not be the best at that thing. Or maybe if I put enough work, I will get there. But at least I've put in that effort, and I'm much further ahead than someone else that isn't putting in that effort. So it's clear to me that Shelley and I are disciples of Tom Brady, and you are disciples of Jay Cutler. Willy-nilly, I don't care. I'll drink 3 beers and go throw 4 interceptions for the Miami Dolphins.
Oh my god.
I think, part of it for me is just like, I don't feel the need to compare myself to other people. Because
I do.
I don't, because all I really care about, and I'm being honest, is if I can look myself in the mirror and say I did the best that I could do, as long as I didn't half-ass it, whatever it is that we're talking about, that's all that counts to me. I don't really care how I stack up with other people, because the only person I really have to satisfy is myself when you get right down to it.
That is a lesson that I need to learn that I have not learned for sure, is like not comparing myself to others and multiple things, career, appearance, all of that.
And I guess like let's say you are the best, whether it's stocking shelves or the best healthcare recruiter or the best driver's ed instructor or the best radio producer, like what's the purpose? What's the purpose of being perfect?
Mine, I can answer for mine, is I like the validation and the well, it's like one of my love languages, so like words of affirmation. I like the words of affirmation I get from peers or supervisors or workers, employees.
Yeah, see, I'm not striving for perfection, because even like the best of the best aren't going to be perfect. So I'm not actually striving for perfection. I'm striving to be the absolute best at the thing. And if I just put in partial effort, like if I put in, let's say I'm working like on a motorcycle, and I'm putting in the best possible effort to make sure that I don't know how to put this in perspective, but with the jobs I've had, but just working on bikes. So when I was working at the motorcycle shop, trying to be the best served me well in so many ways. Like trying to be the best motorcycle mechanic I could be, motorcycle tech I could be, served me so well in so many ways. So I got hired at the Honda dealership. I instantly started doing the Honda certification classes. I got through, a year and a half worth of courses in a matter of like 3 months, because I just absolutely wanted to get that stuff down pat so I could get my hands dirty and get into it as quick as possible so I could prove myself to be, knowledgeable, effective, and valuable to the dealership. So in a matter of 3 months, I completed all the after I first finished the first like 3 courses, I instantly got a raise. So within my first 3 weeks of being employed, I got a raise at the job. My boss was like super impressed. And then like a month and a half later, I was like 75% through the courses, and I got another raise again. I got 3 raises in like a 4-month span. And so striving to be the best at learning and then applying all I was learning into the shop gave me, I had literally had customers coming into the dealership asking if I was going to be the one working on it because they preferred me. because I was, whether it was like a tire change or an oil change or a carb adjustment, I was getting it done. I was getting it done efficient. And they were, whereas a lot of dealerships, especially during motorcycle season, they're going to hold on to your bike for weeks at a time. If it was a job they were bringing it in for, and I was like working on the bike, it was going to get done quickly, efficiently. They're going to get the bike quickly. They're going to be back on the road. I got to be like one of the more preferred people that people had working on their bikes. I had a good relationship with the other mechanics, and then me always striving to be the best, but better than them because they saw the success I was having. And you have these other guys that have been doing it longer, kind of just waiting in the wings, not really putting in all the effort they could have been. Now it's driving them to be better mechanics, and push them out a little bit harder. So I'm of the mindset that yes, it's a little bit competitive. It's sort of comparing yourself to other people, but it's also, if people aren't going to take it negatively, you trying to be better than them, and instead take it as an opportunity to make themselves better, then everybody wins in the end because everyone's going to have a better experience. Everyone's going to do better at whatever that particular thing is. Now, it's not to say that I haven't had jobs where people were upset with me because they felt like I was making them look bad. I certainly have people jokingly, but not jokingly, say you're making us look bad before in jobs. But, it is what it is. It served me well in school and career to always put forward that effort to be the best at whatever I'm doing. So that's just the way I look at it. I don't look at it. I don't necessarily look at it as comparing to other people. I just look at it as to, I want to be the person's preferred source for whatever that particular thing they may need is. For example, on the Shipped Shopper app, which is like owned by Target, I don't know this for sure, but I would probably guess I'm probably one of the most preferred shoppers on the entire platform in the country. Because I've built up a list of like so many preferred shoppers. I mean, I had a list of almost 90 shoppers that preferred me before I had like an issue a few months ago, and I was like basically had to start from square one and build that shopper base again. And now I'm back up to like 70 brand new shoppers. So you're talking in like a year and a half span, I've built up a preferred shopper list of people that prefer me as their shopper of like 150, 160 people. I can't imagine there's that many people on the road that have that many preferred shoppers. And for me, it's like, okay, it's a point of pride. I had literally had an employee at Target today tell me like I was like incredible, and I was one of the best shoppers they've ever seen in the store, just because of the way I had organized everything and bagged everything and folded everything, and like they couldn't believe that I was putting that much effort into it. But knowing that I'm putting that much effort into it gives me pride in what I'm doing, even if someone else might consider that like a menial task or whatever. Knowing that I'm putting that much effort into it to be the absolute best person at that job gives me the pride. If I just half-ass it and don't put in that effort, even though the result could end up being pretty close to what the other result is. If the end result of me putting in all that effort is I deliver that service, they rate me 5 stars, they ask me to be a preferred shopper, and they tip me $15 versus I put in half the service equal to like most other drivers, and it's still good enough service that they're happy with the service, and they tip me $15, probably rate me 4 or 5 stars, and may or may not request me as their preferred shopper. I'd much rather put the effort in and know that I did the best possible job I could do at it. Does that make sense?
It makes sense.
I'm not gonna have as much pride in what I'm doing if I'm not putting that effort into it. I'm not gonna have that sense of like fulfillment. Whereas trying to be the best at it at least gives me that sense of fulfillment. And in what would otherwise, and what for many people is a menial, mindless job.
But don't you think that's a sense of validation? Like you're striving to be the best because you want your preferred numbers to be up, or you want your customers to come to you. That's a form of validation.
That's exactly what I'm saying, though. Is I wouldn't have that same feeling if I wasn't putting in that effort. I would be like everyone else and just kind of like, well, here we go, And that's not to say I don't have like bad days where I get kind of down on it, but for the most part, I'm always trying to be the absolute best of that thing, whatever it is I'm particularly doing at that time. It's for when I got appointed to the school committee, like the members of the school committee couldn't believe the effort I put into to learn all the business of the committee that had occurred in the 2 to 3 year period before I got onto it, because I wanted to know everything that was facing the committee It was part of the reason that they picked me to over the other candidates, and it was also like surprising to them that even when I got put on there, how much knowledge I had of everything going on, is how much studying I had done once I found out I was actually going to be on the school committee, how much study I had done to update myself onto it, because not just because I wanted to be prepared, but I wanted to be the most. I literally went into it. I'm going to be the most prepared local politician that this town has ever seen, and part of that was like that's all the way I always think. And the other part of that is, I come from an area where the members of this town kind of look down on all of us and think we're all the same. And we're all, like, frankly, they think we're like the scum of the earth here. And I wanted to prove all those people wrong. That no, like just because we're from a certain part of town or we're at a certain socioeconomic level, we're just as capable as everyone else is to do this job and do it just as effective, if not more effective than anyone else would have been. And that's the approach I took. So I just always take that approach to any job I'm doing.
So I take a similar approach to any job. I don't want to, if I'm going to do something, I'm going to make sure that I do it well. It's just, to me, I think it's that word, that concept of being the best. To me, it's just, perfection is unattainable. That doesn't mean you don't strive. And I agree with you. I don't think there's any job that should, no matter how menial or mundane people think it is. I think if you have it, it's worth doing well. And if you're going to do something, you should do it well so that you're not wasting time. Mm-hmm. That's just the way I look at it. I don't feel, though, that I need to be, like when I went to grad school, I had some classmates that were very clear about like what they wanted to do and where they wanted to take their careers. And mine was I just want to help people. No, geez.
We've given him too much power that he can just change your name title like that.
Oh my God. I mean, you actually don't get any special cookie or gold star for being the best.
Oh my God.
I don't know, Dave. I just don't see. I don't see how just wanting to do it well is going to give you the same fulfillment as like trying to be the best at it. Well, but maybe I think it's because I have like a competitive mindset, anyways. Like competition,
me too.
I thrive on competition.
So let me frame it this way then. Going by your logic, right? Somebody like me who has the wrong mindset, Tom Brady, I should not have anything of value in my life. I should not have made anything of myself. Are you guys going to sit there and tell me that I have not successfully built a life for myself?
No, that's not true at all. That's not what I'm saying at all.
So that's what I'm saying is that, yes, validation, it does mean something to all of us, even to me. But I think kind of tying into the lesson that I learned very young, like people are not going to validate me. So that's got to come from me. Right. So now I'm at a point where even if people do give me a compliment, I just don't really, it doesn't really land. Like it just doesn't mean anything to me because I think they're just kind of full of it. But when it comes to me myself, I do take very seriously doing well at whatever it is that I'm putting my mind to. I wouldn't be in the position I am today if I didn't. But to me, that's different than saying I'm better than everybody else. And that's when we say I am the best at this, we are saying literally I am better than everybody else.
Yeah,
I just think that about myself.
Yeah, it's not that I'm not saying I'm better than everyone. I'm saying I'm striving. I'm saying I'm striving to be
perspective.
better. I'm saying I'm striving to be better than everybody else, though.
I do strive to do the best, like to hit my full potential, right? So I agree. I do actually agree with a lot of where you're coming from, and as far as how we should approach whatever it is we're doing in our lives. I also agree with your sort of what you're suggesting, which is there are a lot of people out there that are perfectly content to just half-ass it, right? I don't want to be someone like that. But I don't really care if other people are doing that. I really just mainly care about tending my own garden. I don't care how I stack up against other people. I just want to make sure that what I'm doing well. And that that it's a quality effort with a quality result.
Hmm.
I can hear the boys.
Yeah, they're talking in the back.
So you're
Johnny's
having
over.
their own podcast.
Super fan number one's over. We're playing with the boys today.
Oh,
yeah.
nice.
Well, maybe he's super fan number two behind Hawaii.
So Dana's unspoken, unwritten rule that he learned on his own is to be better than everybody else and be
To try to be better than everybody. I'm not, like I said,
to be everybody.
it doesn't mean
Yeah.
you're gonna be better than everybody else. You know, it's putting in that effort to try to be the absolute best
Yeah.
at it. Because if you are, then you're more than likely going to have success. It doesn't guarantee you're going to have
Oh, yeah.
success. But you're more than likely going to have a lot better chance of having success doing it that way than you would doing it willy-nilly and half-assing it. You know,
Yes,
it's just-
I totally agree with you. I think pushing ourselves and really pushing ourselves outside of what we would normally do definitely is going to get us farther. And I do think we live in a time where a lot of people just don't want to push themselves at all. They
Yeah.
don't want to disrupt their sense of pleasure. They don't want to, have to deal with anything that might cause them some temporary discomfort or adversity. They just kind of want to be in their safe little space. So yes, I do think that that's a common thing. And I agree with you. I think if we are willing to push ourselves, we're more likely to stand out anyway. Which I think is part of what you are getting at is just by making sure that you're putting in that effort, it's going to get noticed.
Yeah. And it may or may not. I mean, look, like we've all worked in the restaurant industry at one form or another. And, when I was working in the restaurant, I took the same approach. I wanted to be the best cook. I wanted to be the best manager. I wanted to be the best waiter. Whatever I was doing, I wanted to be the best at it. And in some ways it served me well. I moved up pretty quickly through the ranks when I was, got to be a general manager at Papagino's. In other ways, like a smaller family-run restaurant, working that hard didn't always get noticed because the people that actually were members of the family that owned it got preferential treatment. So maybe the hard work wasn't necessarily noticed. Although the owner did have her own way of sometimes showing that the hard work was noticed, but not to the level of, working for a corporation that's going to show the appreciation by promotions and bonuses and, so, like I said, it doesn't guarantee success. It doesn't guarantee the result that you really want. I mean, nothing in life is always fair, but you're going to have a whole lot better chance if you put that effort in than if you didn't, which is why I take that approach.
Yeah, I part of what I've been thinking about a lot. You guys might think this is morbid and depressing, but I don't. But I've been thinking a lot about the fact, like, I probably have about 20 years left, maybe 30, right? And no, I think it's really gotten me thinking, like, how do I want to spend that time? Do I want to?
If our grandfather was really our grandfather, don't forget he was like 105 when he passed away. So
Yeah,
No, but Dave has a point though, because Mike just told me this morning he had a friend that he used to work with pass away, and he was only in his 40s. And I said to him, that's not that far from where we are. Like, you think you have all this time,
yeah.
and we might not. Like, it is. You do have to think about that stuff, even though it's. I don't know. I find it
So,
scary, but
Yeah. I mean, to me, I've just been thinking of, like, it is what it is. It's part of the cycle of life. And, that's really gotten me thinking, like, these things that, like, always trying to be the best. Is that how I want to be spending my energy and my time? Because 20 years, and let's say even if I have 30, or if I hit the jackpot and I end up living to 100, that's still 50 years. That time passes by in a blink of an eye. I mean, I graduated high school 31 years ago. That seems like yesterday. So I'm at a point in my life where everything I said I wanted to do when I was a kid, I've actually done. So now it's time to look at, like, okay, how do I want to spend the time I have left? And a lot of people ask me, like, why would you be willing to just leave the US and, leave for Vietnam? And it's like, because I can't retire here. I don't want to work until I'm 70 and then keel over. And let's say I live until I'm 80. I don't want to work until I'm 70 and then only have 10 years where I feel like I can actually relax. And that's not going to happen if I retire in this country. It just isn't. But with the resources I have now, in a couple years, if I wanted to leave and try somewhere else, then I could.
yeah, I have my like having to be the best at everything is definitely more a job thing. I don't feel the pressure at home or in my, personal life. It's definitely more a work thing, but I have really great supervisors now that foster that, like, hey, if you make a mistake, like, give yourself a break. Like, you're not perfect. And I think coming from previous employers, it was not always the case. You had to be, there were metrics you had to meet. And it's not to say that I don't have metrics now that I have to meet, but there's a lot more grace where I am now, or at least with my particular, my bosses. And I think, that old saying of like, you are the company you keep, I think that can mean negatively too. You hang out with people that don't do good things, that could turn you into someone that also does not good things. But I think the flip side is you surround yourself with like strong, like morally good people, and you're more apt, like Dana said, like when you have a good worker, you're like, hey, you know what, maybe I should put in a little more extra. It helps rise you up when you're surrounded by people that have, you know, done the things that you want to do. They either help you get there, or they just give you that way of thinking, and they teach you different things that you can apply to different aspects. So I definitely feel like my having to be perfect thing has slightly altered just because of the supervisor I have that's like, hey, it's okay if you make a mistake. Like, don't beat and she will tell me, like, do not beat yourself up about this. We fixed it. You're fine. Move on. Like, it's like, so, like, it's a breath of fresh air to have the space to make a mistake and be like, okay, yep, I messed up. I learned it. I'm not gonna do it again. I'm moving on.
And and to go off of like wanting to be the best and the other people around you, like for me in many cases, especially in my leadership roles, I always felt it made the other people around me better as well, because I wasn't just applying it to, I want to be the best person at this thing. I also want like my team or whatever. So like when I was at Papagino's, like I wanted to be the best general manager. I was a general manager, I was a assistant manager, a manager, and then a general manager in control of the whole restaurant myself for like a year. And I was like, I want to be the best general manager I can possibly be. So my last year, I was always a good manager. It was like manager of the year, assistant manager of the year. I want to be the best possible general manager. I want my restaurant to be the best restaurant in the company. I want us to be like the most profitable. I want my team members to be the best team. I want my team members to be rewarded. So, I strove in that. So I strove to raise everyone up on my team. So then the hard work paid off. We were restaurant of the quarter, like 3 quarters in the row. We got restaurant of the year for our district. I got general manager of the year. And that's all from raising up the team members as well. And I was able to promote shift leaders to management positions. So by me striving to be my best, I was able to push the other people around me to strive to be their best, and I would be like, I want you to go for my job. I want you to try to take my job. I want you guys to work as hard as I had to try to get to my position. Because when we're all pushing in the same direction, it's going to be better for everybody. So I take the approach of, if it's not just for me, it's for the people I'm working with and around me too. Currently I'm in a position where the school committee is different. I work with members of the school committee. I want us to be like the best possible committee. Mm-hmm. And I think I've actually played a role in that this year with some of the policies I've tried to help the committee adopt, and I'm in the process of getting an official policy added to our policy manual now. That's going to, I think, make us one of the most popular committees in the history of the town, as far as, the public view of it, and, if we end up passing it. So I don't just apply it to me. I apply it to the people I'm working with around me as well. I want everyone to be the best at what they're doing around me, so that we can all have that share in that success. Anyways, we spent a half hour talking about this side question, Dave. We haven't even actually talked about the main topic of the
the main topic, lessons learned. I mean, I can kick it off with what I learned and when I learned it, if you want. I mean, I can do that. Okay, so I learned 2 very important lessons in Little League, actually. I am a big proponent of kids playing team sports. I think every kid should. I think it teaches you a lot. It teaches you social skills. It teaches you how to work with others. It teaches you how to sort of share in team success, right? Mm-hmm. And not just rely on ourselves. But the first big lesson I learned was don't judge a book by its cover. because I remember there was a game and there was a girl that was pitching, and 10-year-old Dave was like, "Oh, this is going to be easy." And I swear, I'm pretty sure that girl no hit all of us. I mean, I think she struck me out on 3 pitches looking when I first got up, and she pitched fast. So that was like an eye-opening. It sounds like a minor thing. It was an eye-opening moment for me of like, okay,
Girl power, baby.
no, not. I mean, it wasn't really that. It was more like I can't just make the assumption of how somebody is just based on like that surface appearance, right? So that's actually a lesson I've carried with me for the rest of my life. No lie. I never make an assumption about somebody, their abilities or whatever, or what they think until I've actually had some experience with them. Then I'll start judging, but not beforehand.
So you don't have like an initial judgment and then you're like hold on, let me like shake
Honestly,
it off. I haven't even talked to this person yet. You don't
honestly,
have like a
I mean,
second.
I mean, there's suspicions, right? Like,
Yeah.
If anything, I think what I make a mistake is sometimes I assume people are more competent than they are, and I don't mean that to be like sound like a jerk, but it sometimes I kind of lead with the assumption that somebody is going to put in a good effort or be a good person or whatever, and they're not, So, but I really don't. I just kind of take what I see moment to moment with a person. I don't really try, I'm human. So obviously, like I might have thoughts of like, oh, I wonder if they're going to do this, or I wonder if they think this, but I don't really think like that's how it is. I just kind of keep myself, I just respond to what they give me in that moment. And then after I know somebody, I look at patterns. So I don't look at like one thing that a person has said or one way that a person has acted. I look at like over time, what have they said and done? And that's what I base my judgments on. So that was the first one, is don't judge a book by its cover, is one that lesson was brought home to me in a very visceral way in Little League. The second thing that I learned from Little League was be careful what you wish for, because I remember I got it into my head that I wanted to play catcher. And I remember this was my 3rd year at Little League. And I remember I was like bugging my coach, Bud, like over and over, like, I want to catch. And finally he put me in for 2 games, and it was the most nerve-wracking experience of my life. I was like, I was so afraid that somebody, when they swung the bat, was going to hit me in the head. I was trash talking some kid that went up to bat one day. Dana might remember this. I don't know if you were there for that or not.
I'm just going to say, like, when I was a catcher, because I was like a pitcher for a season, pitcher / you couldn't pitch every game, pitcher / center fielder. But there was one season I spent an entire season as a catcher. I was just going to say, I used to trash talk all the time and get in trouble.
Yeah, I started
so similar.
I started trash talking this. You would have thought. I mean, I learned these lessons, the don't judge a book by its cover. I also learned, like, be careful when you decide to run your mouth, because I trash talked this kid, and he fouled one straight back into my face mask and knocked me on my ass. I mean, it was, I don't know if it was intentional, but it shut me up. So, yeah.
That's amazing.
So those are some lessons that I learned just from Little League, and I'm not being funny. Like those are lessons that actually served me really well later in life. Even the trash talking one, like, before I open my mouth, got to make sure that my own stuff is on point if I'm gonna do something. So that's why I think it bothers me when people. And this happens a lot, where people are constantly criticizing other folks. And I can see like they themselves are not, they're living in a glass house, but that doesn't stop a lot of people from throwing stones. So those are some of the lessons that I learned early as a kid that I still follow today.
Did you have any that like were taught from mom or your dad? Or aunts and uncles or anything like that?
Well, my first, I mean, mom, I think she taught all of us, listening to Dana talk about like, I have to be the best in relation to work. I think mom taught all of us, like, when you go to work, you need to put in
The effort.
100% of your
Yeah.
effort
Work
every day.
ethic. I think we
Yeah.
all learned.
Yeah.
We all
You
get our
have
work
to have
ethic.
that
Yeah.
work ethic.
I know, like, if work called and she got the phone and they were like, "Hey, we need Michelle to come in," she's like, "She'll be there." It was not even like an option. Like, your
But
job called, you went in. If they told you, I still remember her telling me, like, if they ask you to clean the bathroom, you clean the bathroom. Your job is asking you to do something. You're going to do it.
when I was a manager, she always used to tell me, "Don't ever tell anyone to do something
You wouldn't do
that you wouldn't
yourself.
do yourself." So I always had that with me, that I
Yep.
would always,
Yeah.
I would clean the
Same.
bathrooms so that
Same.
so that my employees saw that I was cleaning the bathrooms. So that if I asked them to do it, they knew that I wasn't asking them to do something I wouldn't do myself.
Yeah. Yeah.
But I was going to say, even with work ethic, or trying to be the best, like maybe I did kind of learn some of that from Fred, because as a photographer, he loved being like the most preferred photographer from people. He took pride in like his status, as his talent level and his status as a photographer. And I think I probably intook some of that
I
to
probably
want to
did
be
too.
to want to be the best at stuff. So, and I don't know. I don't think that's a bad thing. I don't think that's a bad thing to take in. I think that was a good thing to take out of it. There's certainly lessons that we could have learned from him that weren't great, but I would consider that a good lesson to take pride in that, and be the best at that thing, that job you're doing. I forgot what I was going to say. So Shelley,
I
why don't
think,
you?
well, I
take it
think
away?
too, going just back to Dad doing photography, I think that made him really happy.
Mm-hmm.
So even when he would just go out to find things to photograph, that like brought him joy. And I think being happy in life is a big part of, I think you choose, like, one of the things I wrote down that I learned was, like, mom, well, first of all, the big one was mom always said, remember where you came from. Like, and I think to me, I'm sure you guys heard her say that too. I think for me, she meant, remember where you came from, like God created you. But I also think she wanted me to remember, like, don't forget, like, that you have to work hard. Things aren't going to come easy to you. And when you do become successful, don't think that you're better than anyone else. Like, basically stay humble, I feel like was the general lesson there. And I have carried that through, leadership roles and all that sort of thing. And then choosing positively, like positive thinking was the other lesson, because I think if you focus on negative all the time, your brain will find negative things. Whereas if you focus on more positive things, it's not to say that you can't be upset about the situation or whatever, but I just think kind of training your brain into seeing the good things. Like, that's why I'm always so like happy go lucky. Like, I look for the good because I don't want to focus on all the bad. There's a lot of bad. I want to find the good. I don't want to dwell on the bad or the sad. And I think mom was a big part of that too. Like, she could have been very, like, a very bitter person with everything that went on in her life, and she was very joyful, very gracious. Like, you would never know some of the things that she went through, and like, that to me is a lesson that I don't want anyone to ever think like, oh, she went through so much and she could have been so happy. Like, I want to be like, oh, I had no idea how that all that stuff was going on. You know what I mean? Like, I want to, like, mom's remembered very loved, and that's how I want to be, or loving, I should say, and that's how, like, I want to be remembered. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Don't know if that's a lesson per se, but
I think I think one of the lessons that mom taught me was, because again, when I was a kid, I had high ambitions. I wanted to be Larry Bird. I wanted to be a pro baseball player. I wanted to be a DJ. I wanted to do hockey play-by-play. I wanted to be a writer. And she always would just tell me, like, try to do those things, but always have something to fall back on. So that I think always have a backup plan was something that I learned from mom, or some way to make sure that you can, support yourself while you're chasing down whatever it is that you're chasing down.
And
Yeah,
I think we saw that. Like, she would work 2 jobs, 3 jobs while going to school, to get her
Yeah.
business license. So it wasn't something she was just teaching; she was putting it into
Showing.
effect. She was doing it through action. And as David was talking about that, I had a mom lesson. One of the things mom always taught me was, because I was frequently in jobs of leadership, and she would always let me use your life experience to help the people around you. Use to help them be better. So you apply the things you've experienced to make you better and help make the people around you better, which is something that she did in housing when she was, working in the housing. She would apply all the things that she learned in her life experiences, in our life experiences. And she always used to say to the residents, don't think I'm ever going to judge you, because there's nothing you're ever going to tell me that I haven't experienced, or one of my kids hasn't experienced, or one of my family members hasn't experienced. There's nothing that you're going to say that's going to shock me or make me think any less of you as a person. So like that non-judgmental helping people is something I definitely learned from mom. Which I know when she retired from the housing authority, a lot of people missed. It's something that it's a rare person that can do a job like that, where you're helping less fortunate people without judgment. I think a lot of people that get in those roles may get into those roles wanting to help people, and then see the different types of people they're encountering, and maybe seeing that some aren't always good faith people, and sour them on doing that type of work, and it causes them to pass judgment on everyone they're doing the work for. And mom never let that happen. She always took the life lessons she learned to enrich and make the lives of those better. Even when there was people that she knew probably wouldn't deserve it, she would never, ever pass that judgment on them, and she would still do everything she could to help them out. I can think of a few cases where she would never tell us about specific people, but she would talk about certain things she was doing for people, and you would she's just showing them like the empathy that no one else would really.
Well, I think that she was judged a lot. And
Yeah.
so I think she never wanted to pass that on. Like, judge a book by its cover. I think she was, or don't judge a book by its cover. I think she really showed that, because I think she was judged by, she always used to mention her teeth and all that. You know what I mean? Like she was always very aware of those things. So I think that's why she took that and was like, I'm not going to do that to someone else and make them feel the way that I felt. I just thought of another one that mom, sorry, now this is like a what did mom teach us thing, but I just thought of another one that she taught in school that I actually still do in my job now, or in all my jobs, is I was having to do a book report and a presentation, and as you guys know, I did not do well in school. And I was like trying to figure out how to write this, and she's like, here's like your template. You're going to tell them what you're going to tell them, and then tell them what you told them. And I still do that when I'm like preparing a project, or, I have to write an email explaining something. Like I still use that, like tell them what you're going to tell them what you told them.
Yeah.
It still pops into my head.
I mean, you just basically gave an outline of a YouTube video.
Yeah.
That's true. Oh, that's funny. Yeah. Again, I struggled in school, so it was very helpful for me, and I've kept that with me through all my jobs.
I have one from Auntie Lee and Uncle Dana. Mostly Uncle Dana used to was a big driver in this lesson. And this guy also kind of ties into me always wanting to be the best, because like I'm acknowledging that you're not always going to be the best, and you're not going to be perfect, and mistakes are going to happen. And Uncle Dana always used to talk, like especially after the karate classes, if I would make mistakes, what did you learn from it? Learning from mistakes. That was a key one I learned from Auntie Lee and Uncle Dana. But Uncle Dana would always, what'd you learn from it? What'd you learn? And how am I going to apply what I learned to the future? If it was a karate thing, what I learned from my mistake on those forms, and how am I going to apply what I learned to make it better the next time, or whatever. It could be anything. It could be something I was working on in school. But yeah, that was definitely one of the takeaways I had.
Yeah, I think on that sort of note, I had a supervisor in the military that used to say, like, after you screw up, let it bother you enough to do better next time. So like, don't let it bother you so much that it drags you down, but let it bother you enough that you insist that you do better next time, which I think is a good way to look at it. Yeah.
Oh, I'm going to take that. That's a good one.
Mm-hmm.
I also wrote down, this is something I learned because I took a job that I didn't want to take, and I knew I didn't want to take it. And then the day I took it,
Good.
I went.
I know what you're probably talking about, but
Oh, I went. I like went and was like, I need to find a new job, and I was like on Indeed that day. I took this new supervisory role. But I think figuring out what you don't want is just as important as figuring out what you do want. And I didn't learn that lesson until and like listening to your gut. I knew I shouldn't have taken that job I took. I knew I didn't want it. I did I knew I didn't want it, and I took it anyway. And I'm like, why? I still like talking about it now. I'm like, why did I do that? Like, why did I take this job? I didn't want that job. Why did I take it? But I do think it did help me figure out what I didn't want so that I could figure out what I do want. And now I'm in a job that I do like and I do want to be doing. So I think that's a big lesson for people, whether it's in a career, in a relationship, figuring out what you do and don't want. I think it's just as important figuring out what you don't want as compared to
yeah,
figuring out
super
what you do
important.
want. Yeah.
Yep, super important.
Yeah. Another moment that changed my life forever was when I was in my 20s and I was finishing up my associate's degree, and I had to take like 2 or 3 more classes. So I took an ethics course, and it was called Contemporary Moral Issues, but it went through just like not just ethics, but also critical thinking. And whether an argument has validity, check your premises, things like that. But I remember the moment it clicked for me. Like I said during last week's podcast, I don't care how strongly somebody feels about something. I care about like the actual facts of the matter. That came from doing that course. That like changed my entire outlook and way of thinking about everything. And it started making me ask questions, like when we talk about the media or the news or whatever, or if I read an opinion piece, I'm always asking myself, like, who is it that's providing this information? What are they hoping to gain by giving me this information? Where, like, who do they work for? Like things like that. Like, not just is this information accurate, but why is it being provided? What's the purpose behind it? So that's just another lesson I think that I took from, again, a college course, but contrary to popular culture belief in some circles, there's this idea that college education does not really teach people anything except how to be activists, and that's not entirely true.
Do you guys have any lessons you would pass down? Well, Dana, I know you have kids, so you're probably passing down lessons. Dave, you have kids actually now. You have kids. So are there any lessons that you would pass down or plan to pass down as they get older or start jobs and that sort of thing, or anything like that?
I would pass down that, these things like being happy, going through a tough time, like there is no final destination where you just achieve happiness and that's it. Life is just a series of moments. Some are going to be high, some are going to be low. Most are going to be boring and uneventful. And that's it. Like it sounds cliched, but everything passes. Literally everything passes. And I guess, and this has actually gotten me in trouble before. I have learned, I think on my own, because it's something that I learned relatively, within the last like decade or so, of like not to catastrophize everything. And kind of like you were saying, Shell, earlier, like people will, the habit of focusing on the negative. And my thought is I don't expect the worst and I don't expect the best. I just don't expect anything. It's just, you got to take it as it comes. And I remember I was in my internship, we were doing some kind of change. And at work, anytime something changes, people automatically assume the worst and they throw up all this resistance.
Mike and I were just having this conversation yesterday.
So I remember I was me and all these other interns, and then the people that work there. This was at the hospital, and they were talking about some change to a process they were going to make, and everybody in the room is like, "This is going to make things so much harder. It's going to make things so much more tedious. It's going to add so much more work to me." And they came to me and they're like, "Dave, do you have any thoughts?" And I said, "Well, the reality is we really don't know what it's going to do. Maybe it will make things more tedious. Maybe it won't." I said, "So I'm not gonna get upset about it until I've actually had a chance to see what it's like." I had people actually getting mad at me after that because of what I said. "You don't realize how busy I am, and you don't realize this, and you don't realize that." And I'm like, first of all, I'm not putting this change into place. All I said was, let's just see what happens. But people would get angry at me for not immediately jumping to the negative. So I think that is a lesson I would try to pass down to people, is like, don't just immediately jump to the negative. Yes, it's possible that this thing that's changing could turn out to be, worse than before. But until we actually go through it, we don't know.
You don't know. Exactly. Yep. Do you think that goes back to mums, your boss does, says you're going to do something, you do it? Do you think you automatically are more positive at work?
Well,
Because of
keep in
that?
mind,
Like, do you think
yeah.
that goes hand in hand?
I mean, part of it is, I went from mom teaching that lesson, saying that, like, when you're told to do something at work, you do it, to then going into the military, which is, the whole basis is you're
Right.
told to do something, you do it. So, I mean, that's where I come from. Like, it's like, you don't attach any sort of emotion to what you're being told to do. You do it.
Mm.
And then, 9 times out of 10, it might be a pain in the ass, but you do it, it's done, and then you move on.
Yeah.
People don't look at it that way, So yeah, I think part of it was mom's, influence.
Dana, how about you?
A lesson I would pass on, especially to the boys, not as serious as my always strive to be the best at whatever you're doing lesson, but this is a lesson I've actually learned from The Office, from one Mr. Andy Bernard, when he said, I wish there was a way to know you were in the good times before you've actually left them.
Yeah.
And the lesson I've learned from that is to recognize when you're in those special moments with the people you love. This is definitely something I've learned to apply over the past several years since Sarah died and Mom died. Is take a moment to recognize when you're in those moments with people. Put down the phone. Cherish those people you're with. Cherish those good times, because, like Dave said, everything passes. Those moments are going to pass,
Yeah.
and all you're going to have is the memories of them. And if you're sitting on your phone the whole time,
Look at Dave. Unbelievable.
Oh, I'm sorry. Were you talking? Were you saying something?
just cherish those memories. Cherish those good times, because they will pass. And yes, it might be nice to have a picture of it, but don't let your need for the pictures and the videos get in the way of you having those actual memories
Like at a
of those
concert.
times. Yes, like at a concert when everyone whips their phones out.
Yeah. And they're watching the concert through their phone versus watching it.
When
like,
me and
through-
Caitlin went to the Hindley Street Country Club, which is a cover band from Australia, known as the world's greatest cover band. They were fantastic, and they asked people not to use their phones. There was one moment where they told everyone to pull their phones out.
Oh, like Boys Likes Girls.
but-
Boys Loves Girls. What's that?
Other than that, they asked everyone to put the phones away and just enjoy the music, enjoy being with them. And it was like, the experience is so much better when you don't have those obstructions, those electronics in the way. Cherish the moments, have those memories to yourself, because those are personal. You don't always have to share all those personal moments to the
Yeah.
internet with everyone. Keep those moments personal to you.
Yeah.
I mean, you can share them through the stories you tell, but you don't have to have photographic proof of everything you ever experience. Use those experiences, cherish those people, cherish those memories. And that would be something I would definitely pass on.
That's a good one.
No, and that helps you recognize that you're in the good times before you leave them.
Yeah.
I have lots of experiences, which were lots of fun, but I'm very glad there's no photographic evidence.
I know there was
Some
no
there-
social media.
there is
for you
some.
to-
There is some out there, but
Did you say something you would pass on, Michelle?
No, but my thing I think would be this may no, I'm not even gonna say that. I think this is a good one for younger kids, boys or girls, whatever. You, I think adults, and if I had kids, I would be very aware of this, is how I spoke about myself in front of my kids. I would be really aware of that. Because I remember growing up and mom saying like, "Oh, you don't want to look like me. You don't want to." She would, and it's more about appearance. Again, I'm focusing more on like weight and stuff like that. But she would always say that to me, and I never really noticed ever. I just loved mom. It was,
Hmm.
her heart, her person. Um, I never even, it was never a thought. And then as I got older and just, again, the media shoves down your throat, you need to look a certain way, you can't eat bad foods, you have to eat good foods. And that's a lesson I've learned actually is stop categorizing food by good or bad. That's no such thing. So I think if I had kids and, when if I have kids in the home, nieces, nephews, I try real hard not to make comments about how I look or, I try to be like, oh, I'm going to eat fruit because it like makes me feel good. I feel good when I have fruit or I feel good when I have vegetables. And you know what? I'm going to enjoy this piece of cake and not even mention that I'm having a piece of cake. Like I feel like a lot of our childhood was so focused on how we look and the food we're eating and I wouldn't want my kids to grow up in that kind of environment if I had them. It might pertain a little more to women, but I know men struggle with appearance and, so that's why I didn't really want to categorize it between daughters or sons cuz I think men do struggle with that as well.
I think we do.
That's what I'm. Yeah,
Yeah.
I
I
think
think
so.
a lot of us do.
Yeah.
And I can tell you, like, I'm not single now, but when I was single on the dating apps, I mean, you would hear and read, I would read that like women find 80% of men unattractive.
Really?
Yeah.
Hmm.
Yeah.
That's a high percentage.
It is a high percentage.
Wow.
But I think, you know, I think it's one of those things like I think there's probably a lot of guys out there that are self-conscious about their appearance.
Mm-hmm.
I know I always have been. I've always considered myself to be an ugly guy. So, I mean, that's just the way it is. So I know I'm not the only one that thinks that, the only guy that thinks that. So I think, yeah, and I just think like body image for men isn't talked about as often. But we
It's
also
not.
have our examples from society of what men are supposed to look like. You know
Oh
what I
yeah,
mean?
it
And most of us
covers
do
all
not look like
genders.
that. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. I think something I learned just through like nutrition and, like fitness and all that. You guys like know I walk all like every day. I work out a few times a week. And at first, when I started doing this, I was like, I'm going to lose weight. I want to look better. And I'm not going to lie. I obviously want to look good, right? Everyone does. But then it became, because at first I was like, oh, I ate, I don't know, a cheeseburger last night. I got to work that off. Let me go do an hour of cardio. And I have learned that you don't have to work out to like work off a meal. You should be working out to like fuel your body, become strong. I want to be an elderly person that can get out of bed, can shower on their own, can take my morning and afternoon walks. Like I want to be a mobile older person.
Yes.
And that is I think right now that's the lesson I'm in the middle of learning currently.
And that's a lesson I learned working as a PT assistant in geriatrics for 5 years, is because I learned that lesson of I want to be mobile when I'm older, because I was
Yeah.
working with some people in their 50s
Yes.
that had limited mobility because they didn't take care of themselves. And I agree. I think like to me, I love food. I
Same.
love I think we all have a sweet tooth.
Yep, we do.
But I've also noticed like something I learned on my own is that my mood is highly tied to how active I've been. And
Mhm.
I don't think of it as I need to exercise. I just think of it as I just need to get some activity
Yeah.
because then it's less of a chore and it's just more of, and then when I think of it in those terms of I just need activity, I find that my body responds like physically, it's like my body's craving motion,
Absolutely. Yes.
know?
No, because
So
that's why I started this walking. Like I don't know if I told you guys I have this walking goal that I've set for myself. So at the beginning of the year, I sit a lot at work. So I bought myself a standing desk so that I can stand while I'm there. Um, just so I'm not sitting. I was sitting so much of the day. And working in retail, you're walking like 20,000 steps a day, and then to go to an office setting, I was barely hitting 3,000 steps. I was like, I need to move. So I set a goal for January. I was like, I'm going to do 5,000 steps every day. Then February up to 6,000. Like, so I increase every 2 weeks, I increase 500 steps. So right now my goal is 9,000 steps through like the middle of May. And it really, like, to your point, Dave, like, it took out the fact that, like, oh, I need to work out today. Now it's just like, oh, I can't wait for my lunch so I can go on my walk. Because I don't listen to headphones. It's just me in the sun, in the wind, and it's like peaceful. I mean, yeah, there's cars driving by and stuff like that, but it's just so, I don't know. It's like a mental health walk for me. It like breaks up my day. I don't know. I look forward to my walk so much now. I bought myself a like an indoor walking pad so that I can walk indoors when it's raining. I love just walking. It's just such a simple movement that I want to be able to do as I get older. So, yeah, that's a lesson I'm in the middle of learning and, cultivating now, I guess.
You guys have anything else we want to talk about?
I feel like I'm missing something. Oh, the only other thing I do, one thing I've learned, and people, Dana, this is probably close to your heart because have spent time as a driving instructor, but people get road rage and they get angry and they flip you off. I've learned it's really satisfying to blow those people a kiss.
I wish I'd done that yesterday when I had a situation. I had a very awkward road situation yesterday.
I just imagine like this person's all heated and they're flipping me off and I'm just.
This is okay.
I think it just makes them more angry, which
this is hilarious. I wish I had done this because this would have made this so much more awkward. I was on the road yesterday driving. I was on a DoorDash order and the direction. No, I wasn't DoorDash. It was Amazon. I had an Amazon block. So another job I do is I deliver for Amazon part-time. So I was on an Amazon block and I was driving on Amazon. And I was looking at the instructions for where they said, leave the package at the top of the driveway. And it was like this long driveway down the house. But with Amazon, you have to go to the house. You can't, if you're not close enough to the house, they won't let you complete the delivery because they think you're just leaving the package willy-nilly. It tracks exactly where you are. So I'm at the top of the driveway and I'm like, all right, obviously it's because they don't want you to park in the driveway. So I park and then, I should say at the light before this, there was a guy on a motorcycle behind me and I was like trying to find the house. So I'm turning on the light and I'm turning slow, which you should turn slow anyway. And the guy on the motorcycle is like hollering and screaming and swearing at me. And I'm like, oh God. And then I'm trying to find this house and I'm notice on the thing, it says, don't leave at the top of the driveway. So I pull over as I'm getting closer to the house. And then the guy's like hollering and screaming. I was like, what the F, man? Come on, dude. Move. And I'm like, okay, well, this says don't go, don't leave at the top of the driveway. So I park on the side before the driveway. And then he pulls into the driveway of the house I'm supposed to go to. So then I can't leave the package at the top of the driveway because the app won't let me. I have to walk down to the house. So then I walk down the driveway and I'm like, say, you number 550? And he's like, oh. I'm like, yeah, well, I couldn't. I had to stop there because I wasn't allowed to go in the driveway. So.
Oh my God.
But if I had blown him a kiss at the light when he was first swearing at me, that would have been 100 times more awkward. Actually, I wish I had done it.
That's so funny.
Because then he had to face me. He had to actually sit there and face me after yelling at me and give me a tongue lashing over, a notes that his wife had put in the delivery instructions.
Maybe I'll do that. You know when people are like riding you and then like you let them pass and you meet them at the red light? My favorite thing to do is look over. And I'm like, "Oh, nice meeting you here." So now I maybe I'll blow him a kiss the next time I'm waiting at a red light.
I always like when I was teaching the kids driver's ed, I've always told them like you can't control people's emotions. Like just don't add to it. Don't add fuel to the fire. Just do what you know is the right thing to do and don't add fuel to the fire because you never know who you're like dealing with.
That is true. There are stories now. People
and
pull
I've,
out machetes and
when I was in driver's ed in high school, we had like the David, I don't know, you might have been gone by then, Dave, the crossbow killer. The crossbow killer. I don't know if you know. It was a road rage incident that happened in Attleboro. Huge news when I was in high school. So I would always show them the articles from that. It was like a guy that got cut off, flipped out. It was like it was an ambulance driver that had been at the tail end of an overnight shift. It was exhausted. He cut someone off. The guy got infuriated, was riding his tail, flashing his lights at them. They pulled over. The guy got out him and his friend got out to find out what was going on, and the guy with the crossbow shot him with the crossbow.
Oh my God.
Yeah.
Yeah. I also remember when I was in Montana reading, and it happened in Massachusetts. I don't know if, I read about it in Montana, but another road rage incident, some lady got out of her car at a traffic light because she was pissed off at some guy and he just threw coffee in her face. It's like
Oh my
hot,
God.
scalding coffee in her, but it was like scalding. So, yeah, there's a traffic circle here in my town where I work, and I was driving one day, and there was this pickup that was like riding my ass, and I've tried to get rid of the masshole driving where I'm just kind of like, whatever, I don't even care anymore. Like Dana was saying, I'm just gonna do what I'm gonna do. I only got 20 years left. I don't want to spend it fighting with people.
Yeah. See, and I'm a. Go ahead. You have the story. Go ahead.
But so that he was like, he was riding my ass, but again, I'm from Massachusetts, so whatever, I don't care. And then he passed me, and then he started riding the person in front of me. The person in front of me, that person threw a bottle outside of their window, and it hit the truck's windshield. And the truck like sped over and started like chasing them. I don't know what happened with that, but I was like, whatever, I'm not.
Yeah, when I see stuff like that on the highway, I'm like, move over, you guys all like take your crazy racing or whatever away from
It
me.
was
Like,
so
take
nice. That was the one thing about COVID when no one was on the road.
Yeah.
It was so nice to not have to deal with those people because I practice what I've always preached. I don't speed. I don't run stop signs. I stop for stop signs. I stop for red lights. If I'm turning right on red and it's allowed, I'm stopping first. I'm not just rolling through the red light. I follow the rules of the road. So, and no one in Massachusetts does. So, like, I make a lot of people upset. And it's like, all right, well, I'm just following the rules of the road. I don't want to get a ticket. If you want to get a ticket, that's on you. It's not my fault. You want to kill someone, that's on you. That's not my fault.
Yeah.
And that's always the thing I told the students, like, especially when they're going for their road test. I'm like, you might get honked at because you're doing the speed limit. You might get honked at by someone because you're stopping at a stop sign for three full seconds. But if you don't do that on the test, they're going to fail you. They don't care that the person's honking at you. The
Right.
person can pound sand. You got to drive the way you're supposed to drive to get your license. And really, you should be driving the way you're supposed to drive to not kill someone. Right? Like people don't realize they're behind the wheel of a weapon, and the rules of the road are there for a reason. I was on a lesson with a student, and we witnessed a road rage incident once. We were going. It was right after. Was it right after COVID? Would have been right after COVID, and I had just gone back part time for the driving school, and we were going up the road, and the car in front of us was riding the tail of another car in front of him, and they were passing each other back and forth, screaming at each other. And I was like, all right, let's just hang back for a while because I don't know what this is going to happen. And then the guy purposely rammed into the other car, and they got out of the car. All the traffic stops, and they got out of the car and they started fist fighting. And I'm like, and that's why we hung back because if we were following as close as other people follow people, we would have been caught up in that. And the next thing you know, I have a student getting assaulted by someone too, like crazy. People are absolutely nuts when they get behind the wheel.
I just had a memory unlock. Dana, I remember specifically driving with you on the highway once, and there was a guy going he must have been going 90 miles an hour. And you said to me, because he was right up against the car in front of him, you said to me, if we have to stop hard, a quick break, that car's gonna run into the other car. I'll never forget that. I can't
Yeah.
even believe that I like forgot this. But it's funny because when I'm driving and I'm in like the middle lane and I'm on the highway and I see a car really, really close to the other car, I'm like, if they ever had to brake short, like that car is going into the back of that
Yeah.
car. And I'm like, that's what Dana used to say. Like,
It
it's just
takes
so
you a
funny.
half.
It just,
It takes you a half a second to even process and react to what you're seeing.
yeah.
So if they're traveling 80 miles an hour and they're going like 120 feet per second, they've just traveled 60 feet before they even start to move for the brake.
Right, right.
You know what I'm
Yeah.
saying? So, yeah, it's just
Crazy. You know, the other thing that I just thought of too is I remember Auntie Tiny telling me when I started driving to not care about, like, forget about the people behind you. You know how you were saying, like, if people are honking at you, whatever, you do what you need to do. I remember Auntie Tiny telling me that, like, you don't even worry about the people behind you. You're just going. The only time that I sometimes do is if I have to stop short at a yellow light. If it just switched, do I have time to stop? Do I not? And if the person's really close to me, I will keep going because I don't want to get hit.
yeah,
But
and that's the rule. It's like
but
it's-
that's like the only time I ever really consider the people behind me. Like, I just remember Auntie Tiny telling me that.
okay. Here's a life lesson I'm going to give everyone and you guys and the internet for free. And this is a driver's ed lesson as well. And that's the meaning of the yellow light. Does anyone know what the meaning of the yellow light means?
It means if it is safe to stop, you are supposed
Yeah.
to do so.
Exactly. And nobody knows that, right? You're basically supposed to stop if it's safe. It doesn't mean hit the gas and rev it through the light.
Yeah.
You have to stop if it's safe. So
That's
students
the
would
rule
always,
in Massachusetts.
students
though,
would always ask me,
to
what does it
run
mean?
it. No, I'm just kidding.
what does
Yeah.
it mean if it's safe? If it means if you're looking in the rearview mirror and the person's like right behind you and you stopping means they're going to rear end you, that's not safe. You have to go. If it means it's raining out and you slamming on the brakes to stop means you're going to skid in the intersection, that's not safe. You have to keep going. But under most circumstances, if it's yellow and you're not in those dangerous situations, you have to stop. Because by the time you get through the light, it's going to be red and you're running a red light. Doesn't matter that it was yellow when you started. Doesn't matter if it was yellow when you started. If it's red when you're in the intersection, it's red. You're running a red light.
Yep.
So people lose that in court all the time. Like that's running a red light. You don't have very long from the time it turns yellow to the time it turns red.
No,
Well,
and some of those lights
it-
are pretty quick.
Yeah.
It's not in Oregon. Like in Klamath Falls, we call them orange lights out here because they stay yellow. They still stay yellow sometimes for a good 5 to 8 seconds.
Really?
Wow.
Yeah. Yeah. So it's difficult like when the roads are icy. Because that's the only time I really get anxious is because when I'm coming to a traffic light, it will turn yellow. And you know, it's just the timing of it all throws me off because you want to make sure you stop in time. So like I'll be doing, you know, like 25, 30, right, in the city, and approaching what's a green light, but I know at any second it can turn yellow. And it's probably going to turn yellow, like where if I even ease on my brakes, I'm still going to be sliding forward, potentially through a red light. It's nerve wracking. Ice is a big problem out here in the wintertime. Yeah. They throw
Yeah.
dirt on the road, but
Yeah, I don't like driving in the snow or ice. Like, I just don't like to do it. I try to
Yeah.
avoid it if I can. Because it's the red lights, it's the lights and the stop signs I don't like because I don't want to skid. And then when
Yeah.
you have to start to go again, it's like, am I going to have the traction to like keep going? And then, of course, there's always the people that think that because they have four-wheel drive, they're just like invincible to snow and they
God,
are
yeah.
still going like 40 miles an hour.
And then you see them
Like
in a ditch.
you
a few
forget the
miles down road.
safety. What is Dana? You probably know the name of that. What's that safety? Common safety law, something common speed. Like
Fundamental
if you don't know
fundamental
the
speed law.
it's like 30
called the
miles an hour or something.
Fundamental
right?
speed law.
Okay, I knew it was something like you adjust to the conditions, even though it says 40. If it's safer to go 30, you do that.
Yes, exactly.
Yeah, but people don't do that in Massachusetts. I'm sure
Well,
it's other states.
I mean, there was
too,
times
but-
the snow was bad enough that the state police said you cannot go more than 40 miles an hour on the highway.
Yeah,
We're going to give you a ticket.
I don't know who would.
People do.
oh,
I know,
people do.
I know, but I'm in the slow lane when I drive in the snow on the highway. Forget it. I let everyone go around me. I'm like, I will get to where I'm going I'll get there when I get there. Like you guys, do your rush thing. Go ahead. See ya. Hate that. We're on a tangent again.
I know. Here we go.
Well, I have been visited enough.
So, you ready?
So next week there is going to be no regular episode because Michelle has some obligations to do. So in its place, I'm going to be recording a special clip episode, maybe with a special co-host if I can get my wife to do some clip intros with me. So next week we'll still have an episode posted next week. It just won't be it won't be brand new material. It'll be highlights of our first 10 weeks of doing the show.
Yeah. Well, it is
And
Mother's Day next Sunday, too. So,
Yes, and Mother's Day as well. Yeah.
And then the next week, we also will not have a show.
Oh, I thought we were still going to record
is
before
that
we
true?
go. I thought we were recording the day
Oh.
before. You don't
Are
want to
we?
record the day before? You don't want to record the day
No,
before?
we can record the day before. What's our
Yeah, the
topic gonna be?
17th, right?
Yeah, that's my
Yeah.
my day. That's my one, and I'll think about it before. We have 2 weeks to think about it. All right.
All right.
Fleshed anything out. It could be just a quick one, just because we have preparations to make for our big bro trip.
Yeah.
But
Well, there's a lot going on in the world that we can commentate on.
Really, do we want to get into this again?
Why not? Not right now. I mean,
I mean, who better than this crew? I mean, people tell me all the time. They say, Dana,
Oh, my God.
your podcast is the best podcast the world has ever seen. Don't listen to him. Don't listen to sleepy Dave Scott.
I can't with you guys.
With that said, I hope everyone has a great week.
Yes, you
So
too.
clips next week. Well, this episode drops tomorrow on Monday. Clips next week, and then we'll be back the following week with a brand new material. Have a great week, everybody. Bye.
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 Sibriv is produced by DS Entertainment Network and Dana Scott. Your hosts are David Scott, Dana Scott, and Michelle Zaborski. Our theme song is Alone Tonight by Ocean Drive, which can be found on CreatorMix.com. Be sure to check the description below for links to our social media, YouTube, and Spotify pages. The Sibling Rivalry Podcast uploads a new episode every Monday. Be sure to subscribe and click the notification bell so that you can be made aware every time a new episode drops.
You guys. Oh, my God. What book were you just showing us? What is this?
Cooking for one. I need. I'm in the mood to cook something. I just don't know what.
Nice.
Then the
Pickles
night
and all that.
the night you guys had the kids, I made bacon wrapped baked potatoes.
Oh, nice.
Yeah.
You know what? You know what my wife's favorite food is?
What?
Squid. Raw squid.
Oh. Sorry, Hawaii. I don't mean to yuck your yum, but who?
I said I'll have it cooked.
I would probably eat it cooked. I wouldn't eat it raw.
Yeah, I assume cooked is similar texture to like what is it? Calamari? Isn't that
But
what calamari is,
yeah,
actually?
yeah, calamari squid.
Okay, that's what I thought.
But it translates as ink. So when I ask her like, "Oh, what are you having for dinner?" It translates as ink.
So you know it's squid.
So I know it's squid.
Oh. Ugh. I think I'm actually going to go on my afternoon walk now.